Okay, so for our deep dive today, I really want to start with something incredibly encouraging. It's a quote from Henry David Thoreau.
Oh, Thoreau. Okay.
He said, "I know of no more encouraging fact than the unquestionable ability of man to elevate his life by conscious endeavor."
Conscious endeavor. Wow. Yeah. That really hits the nail on the head for what our sources are getting at, doesn't it?
Exactly. Our mission here is to, well, move past feeling like just a victim, you know?
Right, like things are just happening to you.
Yeah. And instead really understand how we tap into our fundamental ability to choose to gain some self-mastery.
Okay, so let's dig into that foundation. What's the bedrock here?
It's this core idea of self-awareness. I mean, it's that uniquely human thing, right? The ability to kind of stand apart from yourself and just observe. You can examine your own thought process. You can look at your mood, the feeling, and think, that's how I feel, not that is me.
And that separation, that's everything, isn't it? It means we're not just like puppets of our moods or our gut reactions. That little gap between you and what you're experiencing inside,
Yeah.
that's where the freedom is. It's what lets us consciously shape who we are, which, I mean, that's essential if you want to make or break habits.
But being self-aware also means we have to look at our self-view, you know, the lens we see everything through.
Okay.
And often that lens is, well, it's pretty warped because it's built on really shaky input from what the sources call the social mirror.
Ah, the social mirror. Yeah, think about that for a second. It's like looking at yourself in one of those funhouse mirrors, right?
Totally.
It gives you back this reflection that's all twisted, disjointed, totally out of proportion. Our self-image gets built on these random opinions, perceptions, judgments from other people.
People who are often just projecting their own stuff onto us.
Exactly. Their worries, their biases. And we just soak it up. We internalize these external scripts and start living them out, thinking, oh, okay, that's who I am.
And here's the kicker. That distorted reflection often convinces us we're basically just products of our conditioning, you know, that we're determined by things outside us.
Which leads right into this big trap of determinism.
Yeah, the sources point to 3 really common social maps that the mirror shows us, explaining why we are the way we are.
These are kind of the big 3 excuses, right? The ways we let ourselves off the hook for taking responsibility.
Pretty much. The first map, genetic determinism.
Okay, the DNA argument.
Yeah, it's in my genes, my temper, my shyness, whatever weakness. It's just inherited, like, oh, my grandfather had a quick temper, so.
So naturally, I do too. Got it.
Then number 2, psychic determinism.
Right. This one points the finger at your childhood.
Exactly. Your parents, things that happened early on, the emotional messages you got when you were super vulnerable, they supposedly hardwired you.
Permanently shaped you into who you are today. Can't change it.
That's the idea. And the third one, maybe the most popular these days, is environmental determinism.
Ah, yes. Blaming the circumstances.
Totally. It says your boss, your spouse, the economy, your rotten luck. Something out there is the reason for your current situation, your mood, everything.
And all 3 of these, like you touched on, they're basically built on that simple stimulus response theory.
Like Pavlov's dogs, right?
Yeah.
Bell rings, dog drool.
Exactly. Something external happens, stimulus.
Yeah.
And we react in a pre-programmed way.
Yeah.
Response. But, you know, the critical question is, how well do these maps really describe human beings?
Yeah, that's the core issue. If we actually buy into these maps, don't they just become self-fulfilling?
Absolutely.
If I think my boss makes me mad, I've literally just handed my emotional controls over to my boss.
You've given your power away. And the most powerful challenge to this whole stimulus response model comes from, well, an incredibly unlikely place. We need to talk about Viktor Frankl.
Ah, Frankl, yeah. A psychiatrist, ironically, steeped in that deterministic tradition himself
Until his life was turned upside down. As a Jew in Austria, he was arrested and sent to the Nazi concentration camps.
I mean, the conditions were unimaginable. He lost almost his entire family, faced constant torture, starvation, degradation, knowing any moment could be his last. The external stimulus, the horror, was just absolute.
And yet, in the middle of all that horror, he made this profound discovery. He called it the last of the human freedoms.
What was that?
His captors could control his environment, his body, even his food. But they couldn't control his response. He realized that between the stimulus, the awful things happening to him, and his reaction, there was a space where he could choose how to react.
Yeah.
His internal response. That was his freedom.
And he exercised it. He kept his inner self, his identity alive. He'd mentally project himself out, didn't he?
Yeah, amazing stuff. He'd imagined himself, after the war, standing in a long classroom lecturing students about the psychological lessons he was learning right there in the camp.
Wow. That mental act itself was an act of freedom, something his captors couldn't touch.
Exactly. And that discovery, that space between stimulus and response, it's where our uniquely human gifts come from. The sources highlight 4 key ones.
Okay, what are they? We've already mentioned self-awareness.
Right, the ability to observe ourselves. Then there's imagination.
Like Frankel imagining the lecture hall, creating beyond your immediate reality.
Precisely. Third is conscience, that inner sense of right and wrong, of the principles that guide us.
That one feels deeper. How do we separate true conscience from just, social conditioning?
That's a great question. The sources suggest conscience connects us to something more universal, timeless principles. It's what allowed Frankel to choose dignity, meaning even when the immediate script was just survival at any cost.
Okay, makes sense. And the fourth?
Independent will. This is the power to act based on our self-awareness and conscience, free from just instinct or habit or what everyone else is doing.
So the ability to actually do something different, to write a new program for ourselves.
Exactly. And using these 4 endowments together, that's what the sources define as proactivity.
Proactivity, the first core habit of effectiveness.
Right. It fundamentally means we're responsible for our own lives. Our behavior comes from our decisions, not just our conditions. We have responsibility, literally, the ability to choose our response.
So proactive people are driven by their values, not just swept along by feelings.
That's it. And you can often tell the difference just by listening to someone's language.
Oh yeah? How so?
Well, reactive language tends to shift responsibility outward.
Give me some examples.
You hear things like, oh, that's just the way I am, or he makes me so mad, or I can't do anything about it. Even, I have to do this.
I have to. That feels so normal, though.
It does. It's language that implies you're being forced by outside circumstances. It denies choice.
I remember this simple example with a student years ago. He came in all stressed, saying, I have to go on this tennis trip next week, so I'll miss your class.
Classic have to. We all do it.
Yeah.
We mistake the consequence for compulsion.
Exactly. And I just gently pushed back, asking, wait, do you have to go or do you choose to go? It got defensive. No, I really have to. They'll kick me off the team if I don't. So we walked through it. Okay, so you're choosing the consequence of staying on the team, which means missing class, over the consequence of having perfect attendance but maybe getting kicked off. You prefer one consequence over the other.
You're still choosing.
You're still choosing. The shift on his face when he finally said, okay, I choose to go on the tennis trip. It was like a light bulb went on. Ownership.
That little bit of mental friction, owning the choice, that's the line between feeling free and feeling like a victim. And this applies so strongly in relationships too.
How so?
Think about the classic scenario. A guy whose marriage is failing, and he says, look, the feeling just isn't there anymore. I guess I just don't love her.
Right. That's the reactive approach. Love is just a feeling that happens to you. If it goes away, well, too bad.
But the proactive perspective flips that entirely. It understands that love is a verb.
Okay, unpack that. Love is a verb.
The feeling of love isn't the starting point. It's the result. It's the fruit that grows from loving actions, from serving, sacrificing, really listening, putting the other person first.
So proactive people don't wait for the feeling. They act based on their value of love.
Exactly. They subordinate feelings to values. If the feeling isn't there, that's actually the cue to start living, to start doing the verb. The feeling often follows the action.
That's a huge shift. And it sounds incredibly freeing, like the story of the nurse.
Oh yeah, the nurse. She was absolutely miserable, right? Taking care of this really difficult, ungrateful patient.
And she was bringing all that misery home, complaining constantly, making her whole family unhappy. She truly believed, this awful patient is making me miserable.
She'd given him complete control over her emotional state.
Right.
Her breakthrough moment, her San Quentin moment, as the source calls it,
Yeah.
was realizing that while her circumstances might feel like a prison, she had chosen her response. She'd chosen to be miserable. And the second she grasped that she had the power to choose her inner state, regardless of his behavior, she felt this incredible rush of freedom.
Like the prison walls just dissolved.
Exactly. The patient didn't change. Her circumstances didn't change. But she changed because she reclaimed her power to choose her response.
Okay, so that freedom, that power to choose our response, how do we apply that practically? Where should we focus our energy?
This leads to a really helpful visual model. 2 circles. Imagine a large circle representing your circle of concern.
Okay, circle of concern, what's in there?
everything you care or worry about, but maybe can't directly control. Things like, national debt, climate change, the weather, what other people think are bad habits.
Got it. The big stuff, often outside my immediate reach.
Exactly. Now, inside that big circle, draw a smaller one. This is your circle of influence.
Circle of influence, okay.
This circle contains everything you can actually do something about.
Yeah.
Your own choices, your attitude, your skills, how prepared you are, your habits.
Okay. So the concern circle is broad worries. The influence circle is where I have direct impact.
Precisely. And here's the key distinction. Proactive people focus their time and energy almost exclusively on their circle of influence.
On what they can't control.
Right. And doing that generates this positive, constructive energy that actually makes their circle of influence expand over time.
Interesting. What about reactive people?
Reactive people. They tend to focus on the circle of concern. They dwell on other people's weaknesses, complain about circumstances they can't change, point fingers.
Lots of blaming and accusing.
Exactly. And all that negative, draining energy. It actually causes their circle of influence to shrink. They feel more and more powerless because they're focusing where they have no power.
Okay, so focus on influence, not concern.
Yeah.
What about problems? How does this apply when we face challenges? The sources break them down, right?
Yeah, into 3 types. And crucially, the starting point for solving any of them is always within your circle of influence.
Okay, what's the first type?
Direct control problems. These involve our own behavior, our own habits.
So solved by changing ourselves, our private victories.
Exactly. Second type, indirect control problems.
Yeah.
These involve other people's behavior.
Tricky. How do we solve those proactively?
By changing our methods of influence, not by trying to force or fix the other person, which is usually focusing on their weaknesses in the circle of concern. Instead, we work on our listening skills, our example, our persuasion, things we control.
Okay, that makes sense. Focus on my approach, not their problem. What's the third type?
No. Control problems. These are things we genuinely cannot change, like the past or certain realities of our situation, maybe a chronic illness or market conditions.
How do we solve those? This seems like where people get really stuck, right? Wasting energy trying to change the unchangeable.
Totally. The proactive approach here is genuine acceptance. It's changing our attitude towards the problem. It's finding peace with it, learning to live with it effectively, even if we don't like it.
So it's like the serenity prayer.
Exactly like the serenity prayer. Grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change. That's tackling no control problems.
Yeah.
The courage to change the things I can. That's direct and indirect control working in your eye. And the wisdom to know the difference.
The wisdom to know the difference. That's the key to not spinning your wheels in the circle of concern.
That is absolutely the key. And applying this wisdom, focusing on the kai, can have dramatic results. Think about that corporate example.
Oh yeah, the dictator boss.
Right, this really demanding, micromanaging boss. Most of the executives under him were purely reactive. They'd get together and just complain endlessly about him.
Operating squarely in the circle of concern, focusing on his weaknesses.
Totally. And shrinking their own influence in the process. But there was one executive who was proactive.
What did he do differently?
Instead of joining the complaint sessions, he focused entirely on his circle of influence. He asked himself, how can I compensate for my boss's weaknesses? How can I anticipate his needs? How can I provide solutions, not just data?
So he wasn't trying to change the boss.
No. He accepted the boss's style as a no-control reality for him. But he focused on his own response, his own contribution. He didn't just give the boss the report he asked for. He gave him the report plus analysis plus recommendations that aligned with the boss's deeper concerns.
He made himself indispensable by working within his koya.
Exactly. And the result? Over time, his influence ballooned. In meetings, the boss would tell the other execs what to do, but he'd turn to this guy and ask, what's your take on this?
Wow. His influence expanded massively just by changing his own focus.
Huge difference, a 5,000+% difference in effectiveness, as the source puts it. It really highlights the core shift here.
Which comes back to language, in a way, what fills our circle.
Precisely. The circle of concern is full of the haves.
Meaning?
If only I had a better boss. If only I had more understanding spouse. If only I had more money, more time. It's all external conditions.
Okay, and the circle of influence.
That's filled with the B's. I could be more patient. I could be more resourceful. I could be wiser. I could be more loving.
It's an inside-out approach. Change starts with B.
That's the essence of proactivity.
Yeah.
The moment we think the problem is out there, that thought itself becomes the problem. Because we've just ceded control.
Okay, that's powerful. But we need to add a really important clarification, right, about consequences.
Absolutely crucial. Well, we are always free to choose our actions. That's in our COI. We're not free to choose the consequences of those actions.
Consequences operate by natural laws. They're outside our direct control, often in the circle of concern. You choose the action, picking up one end of the stick, but you automatically get the other end of the stick.
Right. And this applies directly to mistakes, too. We all make them.
So what's the proactive way to handle mistakes? Because the mistake itself, once made, is in the past no control.
Exactly. Dwelling on it, blaming ourselves endlessly, that's staying stuck in the circle of concern about something we can't change. The proactive response. Acknowledge it instantly. Don't hide it, don't make excuses.
Okay, acknowledge, then what?
Correct it, if possible. Do what you can to mitigate the damage. And most importantly, learn from it.
Learn the lesson so it doesn't have power over your next choice.
Precisely. That way the mistake doesn't define your future. Your response to the mistake does.
Okay, so bringing this all together, we want to leave our listeners with a challenge, don't we?
Yes, a practical experiment. Try a 30-day test of proactivity.
What does that involve?
For 1 month, make a conscious commitment to work only within your circle of influence.
Only on the things you can actually control or influence.
Right. Be a light, not a critic. Be a model, not a judge.
Yeah.
Focus on what you can be. And when you inevitably slip up when you make a mistake,
acknowledge it fast, correct it, learn from it, and move on.
that's the challenge. Focus on B.
So this whole deep dive really shows that proactivity is about shifting away from being sort of lived by our circumstances or scripts.
Yeah, letting external things dictate our lives.
And realizing, truly internalizing that we are responsible for our own effectiveness, our own happiness.
It brings us right back to that fundamental choice, that space between stimulus and response. And maybe a final thought to leave people with, building on Thoreau, comes from Samuel Johnson.
Okay.
Johnson wrote, "The fountain of content must spring up in the mind.
Must spring up in the mind.
And he who hath so little knowledge of human nature as to seek happiness by changing anything but his own disposition will waste his life in fruitless efforts and multiply the grief he proposes to remove."
Wow. Seeking happiness by changing anything but your own disposition is fruitless.
It puts the focus squarely back inside, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So the question for you, the listener, isn't just what circumstance do I wish was different,
But rather,
what disposition do I need to cultivate right now?